welcome to the Growing Towards God podcast. Here on Growing Towards God, we talk about ways to grow spiritually and hear how God has been working in people's lives. My name is Virginia, and I'm so excited that you are here today. Thank you so much for listening. So now let's get to the good stuff. Hello, welcome back to the podcast. It's been a minute since I've done an actual episode, but I'm back this week. I guess first, some life updates. I'm heading out on spring break to North Carolina, and so by the time this episode is released and you're listening to it, I'll be there doing some hurricane relief work in communities that were affected by the hurricane this past fall. So if you could pray for our team and just the communities there, that'd be much appreciated. And other than that, this semester has been so busy, way busier than I expected it to be. And yeah, I've been kind of stressed. Just trying to maximize my last semester as a college student and think about what's next for me. So I think that's kind of why I haven't been able to be as active on here as I'd hoped to be kind of coming into this semester. But, you know, I don't really do this for myself or for other people. I mean, obviously I do it to help other people, but I don't do it for the pleasing of other people. I do this for the Lord. And so I think that kind of takes the pressure off for me, that if I'm not able to record an episode for a couple of weeks, you know, it's not central to, you know, my identity, and kind of gives me the freedom to be flexible with this podcast. So thanks for your understanding. And I really appreciate all of you listeners. It's so fun to hear from you guys. And yeah, I'm just so grateful that you guys have been supportive and, you take what I say to heart. But, you know, don't listen to me, listen to the Lord. Yeah, so I'm just trying to help guide and direct. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to share that with y'all. That's my update. I hope y'all have been well. And so recently I was told that I am a confident person. And so I thought, why not talk about why I'm confident this week? I've also been thinking about doing a series of topics and just talking about how I've experienced growth in those areas, such as today's episode, which is going to be confidence, but also humility and love, faith, emotions, and maybe a couple more, and maybe trying to bring on some guests too to talk about those things with me. So I'd like to hear from you. What areas are you looking to grow in? Send me a DM, comment on the episode, or fill out the episode request form in the description and just let me know how you're trying to grow spiritually, and what would be helpful for you, what questions you have, and stuff like that. And yeah, we'll see how it goes. When I was thinking about confidence and how I wanted to talk about it today, something that was coming to my mind was how you can be confident when you know that your foundation will never be shaken. And so with that, you have to build your foundation on something that never changes. And I would suggest that you build your foundation on God's love for you, rather than what the world says to be confident in. Because if you build yourself on something that is never changing, then you can rely on that and your footing will be sure and steady. You're not trying to catch your balance. Versus if you build your foundation on something that is going to shake and going to move and going to change, I kind of think of it like an earthquake. You're never fully stable. You're always kind of on the move, trying to find your balance. And that's not a place that you want to be in. It doesn't feel good. I can tell you that. But yeah, the world says to be confident in beauty and wealth and material status and security and power and influence and grades and your job and all sorts of things that are really situational and just, they depend on culture. And culture changes because people change and we're not around forever. And so that's why it's really important to build your foundation on something that's not going to change. Also, too, I think sometimes confidence can come across as arrogance and be misconstrued that way. And in some situations, it's definitely true. You can tell when someone's arrogant versus confident. But I don't think that confidence automatically means arrogance. If it is, then that's pride and that needs to be dealt with immediately. But I think of confidence as the knowledge of who I am in God's eyes. And knowing God's truths about me makes me feel secure. And that is what makes me secure. And that's what makes me confident. It's not anything that I do. And sure, there are certain things that I do that I think help me feel more confident day to day, but at the root of it, it's the knowledge and understanding of who you are and what Jesus has done for you. That's what makes you confident. And yeah, I didn't always used to be this way, though. Like, I feel like I am a pretty confident person, but I didn't always used to be this way. I was so self-conscious and like critical of myself, my younger self. Being in middle school and high school is tough, guys. Like, you all know that, yikes. But I know what it's like to feel like inferior and feel not confident and just feel like you have nothing to offer. And be so like self-conscious and just always aware of how people are perceiving you. But I do know what it feels like to feel confident now, and feeling confident for the right reasons is so much better than feeling not confident is so much better. And I was thinking about like what kind of kills confidence, and I think that's like comparison. I think that's a big one. When you look at what other people are doing and you kind of think that they're doing better than you are, and so therefore you must be behind, and then you start to hustle in order to prove yourself. But that comes from a place of lack, not the confidence that God has placed you where he wants you to be on your own path and holds your future in his hands. And I think we can also take that and be like, okay, like God has everything under control. Let me just do nothing and hope he drops a job offer in my hands. Like, I don't think that that's how it works. Like, maybe for you it did, but I think that can lead to feeling lazy, and God doesn't want us to be lazy. He gives us our gifts and our skill sets and capabilities and a brain to be able to honor him and use that for his glory. So you still have to put effort in, but the difference is that effort doesn't go to proving yourself and your worth before others. It goes to using your gifts to honor God and what he has given you. And another thing that I was thinking of that kills confidence is a negative thought life and just unbelief of the truths about you. And I'm sure some of you know this, but you can actually control your thoughts and what you think about. And it's kind of interesting to comprehend, like, oh, I can tell my mind to think about this, or I can tell my mind to not think about this, and all these kinds of things. But yeah, it usually just takes a little bit of willpower and awareness of what goes on in your mind to be able to think about whatever is true, noble, right, pure, lovely, admirable, excellent, and praiseworthy. That's Philippians 4:8. But yeah, focusing on things that aren't sinful or not the way like God sees you in your path. I think that's something I've experienced before too. But yeah, we have the power to take captive our thoughts and make them obedient to Christ. And, you know, I think that's something you have to grow in for sure. I don't think that just comes naturally or easily, but I always ask God for more awareness of my thoughts and that he would just strengthen me to be able to take them captive and notice when they're off from what he says about me. And also with this, like, something important is that it is good to just notice your thoughts sometimes. Like, think about what you think about. And sometimes a thought comes that's like, oh, I didn't really want to think about that. And so you kind of just have to, like, not obsess over it too. Just be like, okay, I see that as a lie. Now I'm going to combat it with some truth. Or, okay, I see that, but I'm not going to pay attention to that thought right now because it's just going through and I don't want to think about it. And yeah, I think we can a lot of times judge our thoughts too, when sometimes it's just out of our control. But to talk more about the unbelief of the truths about you, sometimes life is really hard and you've been beaten down or are under attack from the enemy. And there have been real times for me when I've been under attack and the devil has just whispered lies to me. And it was really tough because I believed them for a really long time. But God has freed me from those lies and unlocked my chains. And I can tell you that God's voice is loving and kind and not mean and harsh. So if you're hearing harsh and judgmental things, then that isn't from God. And you can more easily identify what is and isn't from God when you know what he says about you. And everything that he says about you is truth. So, what are some of these truths, you may ask? I'm going to read about 40 of them for you. So, go ahead and take a minute. Maybe you need to just close your eyes, or maybe you need to ask God to just impress these into your heart today. I'm just going to read them and, replay this if you need to hear it more than once. No shame in that. Okay, so here are some truths that God says about you today. You are loved unconditionally. You are valued. You are treasured. You are cherished. You are beautifully made. You are forgiven. You are a new creation. You are Jesus' friend. You are a citizen of heaven. You are chosen. You are believed in. You are held on to. You are wanted and desired. You are made in the image of God. You are not abandoned. You are watched over by God. You are loved just as you are. You are relentlessly pursued. You are beloved. You can do all things through Christ who gives you strength. You are not alone. You are defined by Jesus' death and resurrection. You are more than a conqueror through Christ. Your suffering is not in vain. The Lord is your strength. God is your refuge. God is present in your struggle. God is not angry with you. God is not disappointed in you. God has not given up on you. God is for you. God is faithful to you. God knows what you are going through. God is before you, and God is with you wherever you go. God has a plan for you, and God has given you a spirit of power, self-discipline, and love. God has set you free. God is near to you, and Jesus has compassion on you. Wow, I needed some of those reminders today too. Thanks, God. That's really all that I have today, but I wanted to share a couple more things before I kind of end this episode to wrap up. I feel like confidence comes from a deep sense of self-worth and purpose that can only be found in God. And if you're not right with God, then you can't be right with yourself, because apart from Him, we can't be in a restored relationship with ourselves and others. We all need God. So if you're not right with God, then get right with Him. Confess and ask for forgiveness for the ways you have sinned, and be refreshed and restored knowing that He has forgiven you because of Jesus' blood poured out on the cross for you. The second summary point is that you'll never be confident if your measure keeps changing. So set your foundation on God's unshakable truths about you and His scripture. And there's so many more truths than the ones that I read today, found all over the Bible. But this also takes time, too, to learn and to really impress upon your heart, especially if you're just starting out in this confidence journey. So give yourself some grace. Maybe set some reminders on your phone, or put some sticky notes in a place that you'll see them to remind you of what God says about you. And the third one, I didn't really touch on this, but confidence is contagious. When people see that you're confident, they feel more confident, and they're like, wow, how are they so confident? And they might even ask you why. So when that opportunity arises, be bold and share that you're confident because of God's love for you, and that that's also available to them too. That's all that I have for today. And if there's ways that I can be praying for you specifically, send me a DM or email at growingtowardsgodpod@gmail.com or on Instagram, or comment down below. But anyways, thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you next time. Bye. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. I hope you took something meaningful away from this discussion and know that God loves you so much and desires a personal relationship with you. If you'd like to stay up to date with episodes, follow me on Instagram at growingtowardsgodpod and subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. Before I go, I'd like you to take this benediction into your life and let the Lord's goodness empower you today. The Lord bless you and keep you. The Lord make His face shine upon you and be gracious unto you. The Lord turn His face toward you and give you peace. Have a great rest of your day, and catch you next time on the Growing Towards God podcast.